On Air Brands Live at Home with Devin Bravaco, Eric Cabral, Josh Terry, Jordan Fraser, and Justin Fraser. Lisa Holbert, Sarah McMillan, Chris Horsey, Jack Turkel, and Jake Resnicki.
Hey, folks, we are back and back, almost back, all fully armed and ready here, folks, for you, the On Air Brands Live Show. Welcome. Thank you so much for tuning in and for subscribing and liking and sharing with all your friends and family. As you can see, things are slowly getting back to normal, and we're getting the team back. Jake is behind the glass, behind the scenes. Show your little beautiful face there, Jake.
Boy,
if you want to jump in, there we go.
There
Jake is there, back in studio, behind the scenes, and it's telling you, it's. I have to admit, it's hard to replicate this when we are all at home. Although we very much appreciated and loved the opportunity while we were building and growing and creating really cool things like that home edition intro from the house. I was inspired. I was at MC, hanging with MC at his house, saw his on-air studio in his home, and I went and built mine at home and made it bigger and better. So it was really cool, the opportunities that we created for ourselves and that we took advantage of. But also wanted to just thank everyone for being here and being a part of us and helping us during these times with the love and support. But hey, guys. Welcome, Devin, Josh, and MC Labsha in the house.
What's going on, Eric? You mentioned that we're slowly getting back to normal. That's debatable, right? You're going to have to define normal.
The new normal.
My new
or
normal.
any normal. The normal up here.
Yeah, just
what is normal?
Yes, the normal up here. You're right.
Yes. What does that mean? Yes.
So as we kick things off, as we start the show, we just wanted to give a big shout out to our sponsors for the PodMax Global event, which is July 10th. So grab your ticket now, as we are starting to get to the point where we're going to close. Devin, give me the date. I think we're closing
July 3rd.
July 3rd is the last opportunity.
In
9 days. So, folks, if you want to jump in and actually save a little bit of scratch at the same time, we wanted to give a shout out first to Kitcaster, which is, you like that?
What is that, from your gambling at the track days? I'm going to save a little scratch, kids.
I am a poker player at heart.
Love it.
Yeah, so we have a Kitcaster, and Josh will speak a little bit more about Kitcaster and how they are saving you $100. So thanks to Kitcaster, and Josh will give you the details on how you can do that.
Yeah, not bad at all. So I've been in touch with the founder of Kitcaster, what is Kitcaster? First of all, I love the name. You can't say it enough, right? Kitcaster. It's a podcast agent. They become your podcast booking agent to get you on the right shows. Where have we heard this before? Can you see the connection? Can you see why we collaborated? And it's a win-win, because what we do supports them and what they do supports us, and it's incredible. The founder, Ryan, and I have spoken on a handful of occasions, and it just seemed like a perfect union, a perfect match. So they jumped into the July 10th global event as one of our premier sponsors. So with that, if you right now go to podmax.co/Kitcaster, you will automatically save $100 off of any ticket level. You think it was a steal before, now that scratch is even more of a steal.
Nice try there.
Yeah,
I
tried. Yeah.
massage that in there.
The
scratch.
strike one. Yeah. Strike. But seriously, we love Kitcaster.
Yeah, did you give the link? Sorry, I was actually
Yes,
showing a note
did.
to Jake. How I missed that. I could just like tap the glass and say, "Jake, is my mic hot?" So you mentioned that, yeah. So Jake already put the link in there. So jump in there. Also wanted to give a big shout out to our other sponsors, Accountable Equity. Our wonderful friend and partner Josh McCallan and Melanie McCallan have a wonderful company called Accountable Equity. So check out their website and check out his recent guest appearance on the Bigger Pockets Business Podcast show number blah blah. I don't know it, but it's one of the latest ones, and
It's a great one.
Number what? 22? 22 maybe? Yeah. So look for that. You'll hear Josh's story and Melanie's story about Accountable Equity. They are wonderful sponsors of the PodMax event, and also I am speaking a million miles an hour because I have a ton of coffee. And then also Pessimist's Archive. So Jason Pfeiffer, our good friend at Entrepreneur Magazine, has several shows. One of them is a sponsor of ours called Pessimist Archive, which he received a grant from the government to produce this podcast. One of the only, if the only podcast I've ever heard
Wow.
of that got a grant.
I didn't know that.
That's
Wow.
how good the
I didn't know.
show
That's
is.
really cool.
The show is so cool and necessary, they've deemed, that they gave him money to produce, so he was able to hire an editor and social media man and all the people that you would need to run a really boss podcast. So Pessimist Archive, look for that on all your favorite platforms. It's a really, really good show, highly produced, wonderful storytelling about like how people used to deem things in the past. Like, oh, they used to think that, radio, or they used to think that fire was dangerous. I don't know. There's a lot of cool things in history that people were afraid of, travel, airplanes, and he goes into a deep dive onto those topics and how we sort of came out of it and what we've learned. So it's a really good show. Highly recommend it.
Can you
Perfect.
imagine what they're going to say in another 100 years when they do that show, when then somebody
When
else does that show about now?
When
Wow.
the robots listen
Yeah,
to us because we're no
exactly.
longer here. But yeah, so folks, thank you for all of that and listening to our house cleaning here. We just wanted to jump into that idea actually about sponsorships and partnerships and why and when to do them. And I'm so glad MC is here for the show because he's really good at it. Like before I even knew MC and was listening to Cashflow Ninja, his amazing podcast and brand, where, I would hear shows and ads and sponsors on his podcast. And it was really cool because I realized shortly that those are friends and partners of his. Those aren't people that he doesn't know. Like, he was able to leverage and help people in his community by giving them spots on his platform. So you want to talk a little bit about that, MC, how and when you figured that out?
Yeah, so one of the things when it comes to advertising, especially on podcasts, is when you start out, that should definitely not be one of the main goal, right? It's just one of the things that because of what you've done and what you consistently do, it's a result of that people are now looking at the platform and the show that you've built and the audience that you've built. And then they're obviously interested to figure out, well, how can I partner with MC or someone else with a show with an audience that already is my dream audience, right? Which is one of the ways for advertisers. There's a lot of benefit into it, obviously, because you can, instead of going out, building out your own platform, spending a lot of energy, resources, and time in doing so, and eventually then promoting your message, you get in front of your dream audience right away. But yeah, so what I kind of did is, from a business standpoint, is when you look at businesses, there's always a front end of a business, and then there's sort of a value ladder within the business and on the back end. So I kind of look at it from a business perspective is the front end of the business, right? And when you look at technology businesses, the front end is usually like, with traditional businesses, it's a very small product that you purchase. Let's just say it's $10 or even less than that, but it gets you in the door, right? If there's a small little ice cream cone, for like $1 that you're getting, but now you can upgrade to all the fantastic other flavors is in there with the sprinkles and the chocolates, and eventually you walk out of there and you spend $30, right? Well, you just went through their value ladder of getting into the store and they got you in there somewhere, and then there's certain things that's inserted in that. When I look at it, my podcast as a business is my podcast is the platform. there's a front end which is free, and that's mission driven, and we're trying to we publish it free, and then folks come in. But now, how can I provide more value for them, and also from a value ladder standpoint, insert operators that can tactically help them implement some of the stuff that we talk about. So, for example, and that's kind of how I strategically went into about like coming up with the correct sort of sponsorship partners, and then also which made sense to my audience, but it's also done intentionally where you have certain folks at certain parts of the value ladder. It's just not like 4 people doing the exact same thing, kind of. So you have to look at the big picture, because I know that sometimes when folks jump into advertising for their shows, they get very excited because let's face it, right? It is kind of cool that someone else wants to advertise on your show and pay money for it. It's a huge compliment, but you have to look at it as a business. Always keep your business person's hat on and see, hey, it needs to make sense with brand alignment. What's good for my brand? What other brands do I want to be aligned with? Does it resonate with our purpose, our mission? And does it also fit into the value ladder? And then also, you want to incorporate those partners as part of your quote unquote business. That's the fun thing about business, right? Especially in the information age, collaboration. So who do I want to collaborate with and keep collaborating with and have fun with at the same time? So all those things kind of factor in when you look at, how you pick advertising partners, how you structure it, and then how you kind of set it all, bring it all together, this puzzle.
Yeah, I want to mention what you were talking about, because you've told me funny stories about how you've been approached by brands that aren't necessarily aligned or make sense with your brand. So can you tell that 1-800-MATT story?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So I've been, some of the sponsorships that I've been approached with is pretty hilarious. But like, for example, the mattress one is a good one. I don't even remember the name of the company, but it's like 1-800-pillow or mattress or whatever it was. But essentially it was mattresses and pillows. And I'm like, I'm kind of an investment show. I know when people sleep. Everybody's got to sleep. I get that. And we like to provide advice and create content that help people sleep well at night. But the 1-800 mattress kind of thing, or pillow, whatever the brand was, it was just not a good fit for what we're doing, our brand.
But they were offering a lot of money, remember?
They were. It was, and that's why, like, that should be the last thing that you look at. Because if the first thing, if you look at is money, you're in the wrong business to begin with. But also, like, it's going to drive decisions that's not necessarily a good fit. So I think you're going to lose some of your audience too, quite frankly, if I'm pitching mattresses to them to sleep on. And it's like, I have an investment show. This just doesn't make sense. So yeah, there was a lot of upfront money. But it just didn't make sense. The product didn't make sense. When does it fit into my value ladder? Right?
There's a real catch-22 there, though, isn't there? Like, as business people, as entrepreneurs, our livelihood is a financial return, a gain, a profit, revenue. So my goodness, to be able to see all this money. Here, MC, we'll give you this money if only you just mention us throughout your shows. That would be wonderful. Yep. And so to say you can't be in it for the money or worry about the money, how do we balance this?
Yeah, no, I know exactly what you're saying. And what I mean is, it's not like it's not the money thing. It absolutely, we're a business. And that's why I prefaced the conversation that the podcast is a business, and businesses run on and operate on revenue. But I think, like, the big message there is that sometimes that you have to look at where the check writer has to be a part of this business and contribute to the growth of the business. So do I take the money now and it takes away from what I'm doing in the big picture that'll eventually drive revenue and grow the audience? So yeah, it might be a lot of money up front now, but eventually it takes away from what you're doing overall. But yeah, I completely, and maybe it came out wrong, I completely agree with what you're saying. We are a business, and we're in this to make profits. And that's why businesses are businesses and they're running. They solve problems and they create outcomes for people, and they do that at a profit, because that's how it works. But yeah, I think like it's the whole thing of, do I take the money up front and then reinvest that and build out better other things? That could be an option. Or do I play the longer game and figure out, okay, I do that, I diminish my brand a little bit, it takes away from what I'm doing, it might prohibit some growth in the long term. So I weighed it out, because if you know what you're building and you know how you're building it and where you're going to, then you're going to find the right partners at some stage.
Yeah.
That's just in my experience of how the universe works. And I just see with this amazing platform and vehicle that you guys have built, it's the same thing. Like, the right people are going to come out of the woodworks because they want to align with what you're doing and want to be a part of that and want to collaborate with your brand. So instead of, taking on a mattress company, for example, let's just say Podmax Virtual 2, it's like, well,
Yeah. Exactly.
yeah, I don't take them. I rather wait for stuff that actually the podcasters or interviewees would find helpful.
Yeah.
And maximize value for them. And by doing so, guess what? More and more people are just going to join Podmax, and this podcast community that you're building.
Yeah. What's funny about that story, and we don't want to, if it's up to you, but someone actually took the money, and it was an investment podcast. It was an investment.
Oh, really?
Show. Yeah, and MC got a kick out of that because he's like, oh, somebody took the check and cashed it. But I just wanted to highlight too what we did. Sorry, Devin, I know you wanted to. I heard your voice.
No,
and wanted
go
to say
ahead.
something.
That's okay.
I wanted to share the strategy that I had in the early days of my podcast, where I did take some sponsors, mostly in the podcasting space. And the play was really to legitimize the show, because as I was starting out, I wanted people to feel like, oh, this show is for real. He's got sponsors.
It's a business.
And it's a business, and therefore I want to be a part of it. It got to the point though where I didn't need it anymore. It wasn't, because it's not about the money, like he said. It's pennies. It's pennies. And the thing is, once I got the traction and the network and the leverage, then I started to help people that were closest to me, like Accountable Equity, like Producers Wealth, MC's company. These are shows and brands that I want to align myself with and help. So that's a way for you to not necessarily monetize, but to monetize your relationship capital and to start to leverage how I can help other people by giving them something that's got tons of value, but doesn't cost me anything out of pocket and doesn't cost them anything out of pocket in the long run. We all win. So if you have a podcast, I highly recommend or suggest that you look at the friends around you, even your own businesses, On Air Brands and Podmax and all the things that we do. There's tons of stuff that we can promote internally, and that's how we leverage it. But then we also say, hey, by the way, I'll give this to you because, I want you to succeed and I want to help. So yeah, that's just a bit of advice I wanted to give.
And I'm curious, MC. I mean, you're at 600. Did you cross 700 yet? You might even be there. But, if you step back a little bit, episodes, right? If you step back a little bit, for someone that might be listening that is, maybe hasn't even reached 100 yet. Do you remember back on, when you were kind of establishing your strategy and, who did you reach out to? Or did someone reach out to you first? And how did you, kind of navigate those initial first conversations?
Yeah, that's a great question. And here's what I would say: if you're looking to have some revenue, especially in the beginning, because just to tie into something what Eric was saying too, like a lot of the money coming in essentially pays for production, the show. There's really not money that the owner takes from that runs the podcast, because again, it's the front end of the value ladder. The back end of it is eventually where there's going to be, let's just say, digital courses, masterminds, events, that kind of stuff. But what do people do when they start? Here's a great idea. So a lot of folks that have shows have books based on the niches that they're in. So you could actually sign up to become an affiliate, like for Audible. and Audible will pay you $15 for every person that you send their way. So how do you send people to Audible? Well, you figure out great books in your niche
Oh,
that
yes.
you would recommend, and then you get the Audible links. And then, by the way, you could I think the affiliate program works as the following: they can sign up to download and listen to a free book. So, by the way, that even if they sign up and they don't maintain it, there's still affiliate income for you on that. But most people, when they download that book and listen to it, they become a listener to it. So what I did initially is said, hey, here's some of my 5 best investment books that I love.
Nice.
And by the way, you can download one of them for free, not all 5, but you can listen to 5. But at least take opportunity of this. Go to cashflowninja.com/Audible. You'll get to sign up for a free account for Audible and download one free book. And that's my gift to you. Now, all of a sudden, you provide value. They get a free download for a book, and you get $15 for every person that you referred. And it's not a sponsorship yet, but you don't have the audience yet when you just get started. But as you're doing this, now all of a sudden, now you get some money coming in. So and the more your audience grows and you keep promoting that and keep running it, and promote it on all of your platforms, before you know it, there's a couple of $100 coming in every month just from Audible.
That's brilliant.
And that's the big thing about monetizing a podcast that people miss, is people think that there's big money on the sponsorships. Like if I look at my financials for my show, my sponsorships of the revenue is probably 20%.
Wow.
80% is all affiliates.
That's
And
amazing.
That's very interesting.
That's brilliant.
That's gold right there.
Yeah.
That's
MC, you
gold.
reminded me of something that I think you and I were talking about. So I love the Audible advice. That's brilliant. Yeah, I'm going to implement that. But you and I were talking about, I think, there's content out there that is public domain. And
Yes.
You can, and forgive me if I'm giving away secret sauce, but I think this is really cool. You can take these books and
Yep.
skin them. You can brand them, Cashflow Ninja, On Air Brands, whatever it is, and sell that book because it is now free, and you
Yep.
can give it away, not sell, but has an added value to someone. Hey, download. What's one of the books that's public domain? MC.
Yeah, so this is kind of a little ninja hack too that we spoke about. So to your point, there's certain copyright and trademarks that sunset.
Yep.
So at some stage there is phenomenal pieces of work, of literature that is public domain. And what that means is there's actually a website, and I was trying, when you said that, I'm like, I got to remember that website, because you can actually search in your niches for books on them. And maybe we'll remember this as I'm talking, but there, you could search for books in your niches. And what you can do is, so what I did, if you, at Cashflow Ninja on my email list, when people sign up for my email list and they hear us, we hit them with, hey, here's 5 of the most valuable investment books that'll wire your mind for money. And they click on the email and they're like, these are links to Think and Grow Rich, The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yep.
P.T. Barnum has a book, by the way, for entrepreneurs. Talk about an uber entrepreneur. There's a P.T. Barnum book which we added, which if you have an entrepreneur show or that's in your niche, that's phenomenal. I mean, that quite an entrepreneur and a marketer. But anyway, so The Science of Getting Rich is another book of them. So there's How to Make Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie. So these are all public domain. So you can actually take the books, download it from this website, which I will hopefully remember by the end of this conversation. But you download it, and you can have a graphic designer to create your cover. Like my covers is Cashflow Ninja with their labels on it. It's put inside, and then now they can download it from Dropbox. So think about this, right?
Wow.
From a front end, and this is just value, and this is audience growth and build. Is you can offer someone the Audible a free download of a book. Then you can give them as for your mailing list for signing up just to your newsletter. Another, I have 5 books, but even if it's just one book, in your niche, and then all of a sudden they've got a free audiobook already from you. They've got all of this books, which that most people don't know it's out there and it's public domain, so they're not going to do it. You as an aggregator of knowledge and of all this information is of value to them. And then you have a great podcast, which is also for free globally on all the platforms and on all the video platforms. So just think of the value already that you provided there for someone. Why are they not going to want to keep listening to you and all of your guests and follow you and support you? And if you play the long game, like I've not tried to monetize our show at all through our own courses and stuff, but you do this for 4 years and we have an audience now. We launch let's just say we launch a course. I think that we would have a line outside the door, if we have a course eventually, because we just consistently provide value, and find other ways to do it. And it doesn't cost, by the way, if you're just starting out, the Audible doesn't cost you money. This doesn't cost you money. You can find a graphic designer on Fiverr for $5, fiverr.com to make a cover for you, and put that on. So it's, it's just a little trick of making the front end as valuable as possible for folks without incurring a ton of overhead.
So the thing you're talking about here is getting the audience into your circle, so onto your email list, into your world as listeners, so you can continue to communicate with them. Then simultaneously or prior or shortly thereafter, you need the value ladder of products, a small, a medium, and a large product or service to offer that then you provide to them. Yeah, that's the connection.
Yeah, absolutely. And just think about, and this might be something of interest for folks, is to write down the journey of a listener. So everyone, we all start with an avatar and knowing everything what our avatar, does, right? Andrew and Eileen avatar. So I call my avatars when I write about them. But you know exactly where they are and where they want to go to. So what's the journey that they take to get there, and what would maximize value for them? So you would figure, well, they need to first change their beliefs and their mindset, right, in our journey, because we talk about cash flow investing, which is completely different than most of the financial advice that's out there. So we've got to change beliefs and a mindset. So how do people do that? Well, you can't do that for someone. They're going to have to listen to podcasts. They're going to have to read some books. They're going to have to listen to some books. They're going to have to change some habits. And then they're going to have to learn certain basic things. And then they're going to keep the momentum going. What's then next? Where should they go next? Maybe they should take if it's a real estate investor, like take a real estate course. And maybe there's someone that you could promote that has a great real estate course. We got such an influx of people that asked last year and 2 years ago about Airbnb businesses and building Airbnb businesses. So in our journey for our listeners, I looked at who's one of the people out there that has phenomenal content on it and who actually has a lot of students with success showing that it works. And we partnered with them as an affiliate, for example. They were on the show, and that is part of their journey. So now, you want to learn, where do you want to start in real estate? A lot of people wanted to start with, let's just say, the short-term rental, Airbnb at that stage. So then you provide that value for them. So you just find it and kind of insert it into that journey.
Something you said before, which I think is so important, and in the journey in general, is just consistency. So it's consistently putting the content out there, consistently continuing with your podcast, consistently finding new ways to kind of add value to other people. And I think that's so important, because especially when you're starting out, you think like, oh, nobody is watching or nobody sees this. Like I can kind of just skip this. And, we kind of went into that when went into home with when COVID happened, and we were like, no, let's be consistent. Let's find ways. And we did the home edition, and, we found out StreamYard. And I think that's so important, because consistency is such an important thing in your journey.
Yep. Think about the discipline of anything. And this, again, podcasting is business. It is a business. So for any entrepreneur and business owner out there, look at the successful ones, and they're all consistent, and they all are persistent too. They don't give up. You pick a name, Elon, PayPal wasn't his first company, by the way. There were many failures. and you look
And
at
I'm loving Elon more and more now that I see his little videos out there. I'm like, oh, that's Elon. Interesting.
yeah,
It's
like
fascinating.
you pick any one of those people, and they just, it's consistently trying and being consistent in what they do. And with podcasting, especially, think about it, especially now. If you miss a publishing date now, or you disappear for a couple of weeks, are there any other shows that people can listen to?
Oh yeah,
Mm-hmm.
exactly.
There are so many. So you miss one now, or you change up a couple of things, and you're not consistent. Then all of a sudden the listenership is down. You're gonna lose some folks, because there's just so many other shows out there. And they might be listening to another show, just giving it a try, and all of a sudden they've now got another show, right? And then you come back, but you've kind of lost that listener. So it's the same thing with any business that just basically closes their doors, and someone else will find another company that'll take care of them. So
I wanted to highlight what you said here, MC. It's critical that as podcast hosts, you're consistent, right? Like as Devin is always, and we're always talking about, you have to be consistent with your brand, especially your message, and figure out what that consistency is for you, on a weekly, on a daily basis. So it also helps. I highly recommend, if you're a host, you have to get on shows too, because now, so one of my shows, it's not my show. I was a guest on an amazing show. Actually, Matt Shields, really cool guy. He's a real estate investor. Just launched a new podcast called Pass the Secret Sauce. How great is that?
Wow.
And it's funny because I forget I'm not here alone. I look over at Lisa. Oh, Lisa's here. So Pass the
people.
Secret Sauce, episode 22, just launched today. I was a guest on it. And as Josh and I always talk, listen, it's weird at first. You're like, I listen to myself, but you get accustomed to hearing your cadence and now I'm doing the whole Lindsay, which I snap the rubber band even when I'm listening to myself on another show. When I go I think I only did it twice on this episode, so I'm getting better. So the thing is, that show is part of Podmax now. So I know there are specific people that are coming in because they want an opportunity to be on his show. I was on his show, and therefore it's out there. There's more content that I am pushing out there, not just through my show, but through other people's shows. So if you're constantly being a guest on shows, you're getting more visibility, more traction, aligning yourself with this, doing so many things, aligning yourself with other brands, helping their show, they're helping you. There's just so much fusion and an ecosystem that you start to build as a guest, not just a host. So I wanted to highlight that for folks. And I think MC is also going to be with us at Podmax. So he's going to be, if you're interested and you want an opportunity, it's not easy to get on his show, but you come through our events, we make the introduction, and his show does wonders for people. I've been on his show a couple times and my phone wouldn't stop ringing. And it's just amazing when you're able to leverage and join other communities that are already built. They're already there. You're walking into a city and everyone's like, "Hey, great to meet you." And you're like, "Wow, I didn't build this. This is great. Thanks for having me." So it's just amazing that as a guest, you can do a lot of really cool things. And as a host, obviously, you have more control, more consistency of putting content out there.
And if you want in really quick, Kitcaster, one of our premier sponsors for the event, giving you right now $100 off your ticket to Podmax Global on Friday, July 10th. Podmax.co/Kitcaster for immediate savings of $100 right now. Take us up on this. Thank you, Kitcaster. We love you.
Put the scratch back in your pocket.
Okay, that by the way is a great example of like a great partnership and collaboration of brands that fit together. They'll maximize value for everyone that's involved with Podmax and everyone that's watching and listening now. And that it's a great fit. So it's a great example of our conversation today.
And I saw we all laughed at when MC was talking about 10 minutes ago. I read a comment here. I cracked up laughing while MC. I then looked at my screen. Lisa and Eric also started cracking up laughing.
Yes.
Hone, we love you. Hone wrote, "My next pickup line will be, You look like you have a brand that I want to align with.
Yes.
That's
Brilliant.
great.
It's
I
a
love
joke,
it.
but it's brilliant.
I love it.
It really is, because
Talk
then that
about
starts
it,
a
yeah.
conversation, right?
Yeah.
If somebody says that, somebody steps up to you at a meetup and says, "You seem like someone I want to align with." I mean, what a compliment,
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
For them to say that and recognize that, oh, wow. It's almost like saying, "Will you be my friend?" But it's saying it in a cool business way where now we can do bigger things together. I see some fusion. I see some synergy here. Why don't we start talking more? And that's what we're in, right? We're children as adults now, and we're like, hey, can you play in the sandbox with me? Can we do some cool things? Like, can we build, like I mentioned before, my kids, building Legos. And then here's the funny thing about that story, if you guys remember, my kids building Legos and then smashing them to pieces, not a mistake, with intention, and then rebuilding. And then that was like the conversation about how do we rebuild and take the same pieces but create something new and not be afraid of doing that. What's funny is now whenever they do that and I hear in the background, they smash the Legos and they yell, "On air brands, on air brands," because they actually watched the episode.
Yeah,
they
that's
heard the
awesome.
shout out and they heard me talking about them and they wanted explanation
That's
of
so
why I was
cute.
talking. It's so funny now. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, get out there. Like Hone said, mix it up. And now use that great pickup line that he came up with, and you might have to pay him royalties. Hone Tide.
Oh, that was
I
great.
love Hone. And,
Hey, talk about your relationship with Hone. MC.
Yeah, Hone is just with my company, one of our partners, and he's joined the team, and he just brings a lot of energy and enthusiasm to it. He's a great teacher. But the reason why he's a great teacher is he practices what he preaches. So he lives and breathes it, and that's why he has so much energy and enthusiasm. And
We had him on this show, so eventually we'll link to his appearance on this show. I also want to talk about, in order to be able to say to somebody this joking but probably very appropriate pickup line, "You look like you have a brand that I want to align with." That means that you have to, in order to attract a sponsor or to attract a partner or to attract anybody who might be interested in working and collaborating with you, you need to be that attractive person in every way. So take what we're talking about here, the good that MC is dishing out here, to put your stuff in place that it allows for people to say, "You look like a brand I want to align with."
Well, and I think that's so important, Josh, that you say, because your brand is it's you, but then it's also your business, and it's what you kind of put out in all different regards. Like there's all different platforms and there's all different social medias that you can kind of get out there, and it's what you as a person and what brand you kind of represent.
yeah.
The cool thing about Hone.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, sorry, MC. I just wanted to highlight something that happened that was really cool. So the Hone journey, and Hone's getting a lot of shout outs here, is that he came here on Air Brands Live, this very show. And at the end, we said, "Hey, brother, we have an event coming, and you'd be perfect for it." And he didn't hesitate. He said, "I'm in. What do I need to do?" So he jumped in with us. And then what happened? You watched this journey. He meets MC. They're taking selfies together. They're getting to know, like, and trust each other. It was magic that was happening at the PodMax event, which is really cool. And now they're partners. They're
That's
working
where they
together.
met?
They met here. Am I not mistaken, MC?
Well, we met at the Mid-Atlantic Summit the
Mid-Atlantic,
first
yes.
time, but
Okay.
yes, that was the second time that we spent some time together. But
And then,
to your point, it was great. We had a great time.
It's amazing because
He's blushing, by the way. You're making him blush.
I know.
But I was so happy to hear that MC and Hone are working together now with Producers Wealth, and they're partnering and building stuff together. So it's really cool what happens when you just say yes, right, Hone? Where it's like he came here, he was like, "You know what? I'm starting to live." It's like that George Costanza thing where he was like, "I'm just going to do the opposite of everything that I was taught in life," and that's what Hone was like. He was like, "I'm just going to say yes. I don't know what I'm saying yes to, but yes." And then look what happened. Now we're all friends and family, and it's just magic.
And
But I
I,
think
and,
that goes along. Oh, go ahead, Lucy.
no, go Devin, go.
I was gonna say, I think it's a big part of like the brand too, that like we're creating, like what we're kind of establishing around us is like the openness and the connections and the inviting pieces. And yeah, like we're putting on great events with amazing speakers, but the people that we're getting in the room are, incredible. And to be able to watch their journeys then after connecting each other is amazing.
Yeah.
And what you guys are doing with the 5-day challenge, I think is an excellent exercise in making sure that you do have your message tuned and that you know what you're going to say in those first 30, 60, 90 seconds. Because if you want to align your brand with somebody, that's going to be your opportunity to share who you are and what you do.
You don't want to fumble the ball. Yeah.
And how incredible. I just looked at my phone too, and I have, so we have our network, our closed network. And, each week we introduce everyone who's been there, and just like looking at the feed coming in, like everyone's just excited to like share who they are, share what they're about, share what they're doing and how they can kind of incorporate into the brand, into the network. And that's, a brand that we've established and, made and are growing, and, constantly putting that consistent like content out there is so important.
Yeah.
Yep.
Do you want to talk at all, Josh, about about that challenge?
I
Because
was just
think
going
it's
to say.
brilliant.
Well, thank you. So we're actively in real time right now. We're on day 3 of the 5-day challenge. So it's inside of a week, right? Monday through Friday right now. And we're certainly going to be doing it again shortly down the road because it's been proven to work. So I just want to highlight the results I'm seeing, because it's not just a come on in and help you practice being interviewed through those crucial 60, 90 seconds out of the gate when the host asks you a version of, so tell us about yourself. Whether it's that question or something similar, you want to start strong with that blurb, with that chunk of introduction dialogue to really set the tone, establish you, and get things going in the right way. So on day 3, what we have you do, no, it's actually day 2. What we have you do is record your version, your 60 or 90 second chunk of, so tell us about yourself. Then we review it and give you specific feedback. Fantastic, right? Everybody's loving it. It's working wonderfully well. But what's so wonderful about it, one response sticks out. One woman submitted her chunk. A lot of great stuff. I gave her specific feedback. Her response to my feedback was, she was almost in tears because she said, thank you for validating what I'm doing here, which made me realize when people go on shows, you're getting no real feedback. So just having somebody on the outside say, that's a really great start. I like where this is going. I would like to hear more about that incident you mentioned. You sort of just glossed over it, but that's your pivotal moment that got you here. So now I want to hear more of that, but you are on it. Continue down that, save this story for later and practice that. She was, again, almost in tears because I realized people don't have the knowledge. They don't have a space to practice, to get feedback and say, is this good? I don't know. Do I have anything here? What could I improve on?
That's
It's really good. Yeah.
That's powerful. You bring up a good point that I don't think we highlight enough. So when you're a host and you're starting a podcast, I would recommend that you ask the guest when you're done, how did I do? Right? Especially if it's a new show. And oftentimes, you may not get constructive criticism right away, but if you do talk to someone who is a pro guest, someone who's done many, many, many shows, they can give you feedback like, hey, you asked a couple questions that no one's ever asked me before. That's like one of the ultimate compliments as a podcaster when someone says that, because that means you're doing something right and unique. Then also as a guest, when you're done, ask the host if there's a few minutes afterwards, hey, can you give me some feedback? How did I do? And you'll start to set up the pieces to get better in crafting your message and getting that real-time feedback from someone who may not necessarily know you personally and will be able to sort of give you some insight as to how you did before it goes live, because sometimes these things take weeks or months to come out and then you'll forget. But yeah, ask for that and take notes from both sides of the mic.
The practice, just from having done the short video series that I did, the practice and watching it can be painful.
Yeah.
But you definitely can get some good feedback for yourself. But then when you ask someone else for the feedback, they're going to see totally different things.
Very true.
And so I think taking the tools that you guys have set up, like the 5-day challenge, and even how to be a great guest, you put all that together,
Yeah.
and then you do something like PodMax Global. You've now set yourself up in a short amount of time for success.
Right now you're on stage,
Absolutely.
right? All that
Yep.
practice behind the curtain, you see it come to fruition. All that labor starts to really shine when you hit an event and you're like boom, boom, boom on professional podcasts, and you start to exercise those muscles. And then the more and more you do of it, as I mentioned, on this show, Past the Secret Sauce that I was on, that's probably, I don't know, my 50th guest appearance on a show. And I'm like, wow, I could tell the difference from please don't listen to the first episode when I MC Lobster Show. When I was on Cashflow Ninja, I was like, and I was like, oh my goodness, I need to get better at this. And meanwhile, now I'm speaking to tens of thousands of people on his platform, but I didn't know, I wasn't really aware of being an amazing guest. I was just concentrating on being a good host. So yeah, this is really good stuff that we're providing now, that we're able to help, thanks to Josh, who loves educating and helping people, especially in the podcast space. So yeah, highly recommend. I love how we're taking our own medicine. Lisa's like, yeah, I'm joining in and I'm eating it up, and yeah, it's just a testament to what we're creating, because we practice and implement and use the tools ourselves. So it works. And
You know
it'll
what
work
I'm
for
curious about? The three of you that have successful, long-time podcasts, do you go back and periodically tweak
Ooh,
your
so good.
message, or
Tweak the message.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's funny because Josh and I are actually this Friday at the final masterclass before PodMax are going to. So last week we reviewed MC's favorite episode, which was Jim Rogers' 600th Cashflow Ninja episode. We broke it down and distilled what we loved about it and disliked about it or whatever, and figured it out together.
Right.
We're doing it this Friday, but now Josh, I forced him. He was like, who are we bringing on? Like, let's audit our stuff. So now we're going to talk about his favorite episode, my favorite episode, and break it down. But you're right. I do go back sometimes, and this is going to be an opportunity for us to scrub and audit and see. And it's kind of cool because then we could see how good or bad we've, I'm hoping I improved over that, because I'm highlighting episode, what is it, Jake? 19, Jason Pfeiffer, and we're hitting over 100. We're going to hit that mark. So that was a long time ago for me. So it's going to be cool. It's a cool sort of exercise to do as a podcaster.
And your tell me about yourself answer is different than it was a year ago.
100%.
And yours is Josh, and MC. I'm sure yours is as well.
You have a good opening, MC? You have a good opening there?
Yeah, and even like the close, I've upgraded a lot of that stuff of even how I close out my shows, and because sometimes your show also takes a direction where you kind of tweak your message with the growth of your show. That makes sense. So what I mean by that is, in the beginning, it was a lot of passion and purpose. Was kind of the message, and then it's like, live your freedom, live your purpose, live your legacy. Kind of like grew kind of into that, and now it's almost 600 episodes later. It's kind of more into infinite living, live infinitely, live in abundance. So the messaging kind of changes of how I guess your mindset and the show basically grows too, and then the openings too. Boy, my openings used to be a lot longer, and what I've learned through a lot of trolls, I listen to them, more and more of them tell it.
Hey,
they got a point, right?
Be happy you've got them, because you haven't arrived, right? Until you got them.
Yeah, welcome to the club.
Yeah, I think my intros were much longer, and now it's I try and take some of the best podcasts that are out there, and then I try to study what they're doing and how they're doing things. And there's one show in particular that I find I study a lot of what he's currently doing. Brian Rose with London Real. It's got one of the biggest podcasts. I mean, it's probably in the top 10 right now. It's not Joe Rogan yet, but it's getting there. So I kind of look at what he was doing too. And, he's very quick to the point. He has a little bit of sometimes he prefaces things, but he's very quick on his intro to get the podcast going. So sometimes, when I think I first started, I kind of like did something on like the episode for like some of my takeaways and the stuff that we're going to talk about, and then I introduced the person, and then eventually it got in there. And when, I don't know, the 10th or 15th troll said, "I wish this guy could just start the show." I'm like, all right, so I'll start the show. I'll start the show. So now it's more, hey, this is Cashflow Ninja. My name is MC Lobster. My guest is this. And then we kind of, because we asked them about their background and journey. So yes, instead of going into a massive long introduction for especially big guests, we kind of just preface it that, they're world famous investors or Uber entrepreneurs, the CEO of X, Y, and Z or ABC. And we kind of just jump into it. So that's something that I tweaked a little bit, is just to get the guest in and get them to start talking as quickly as possible and share basically who they are and what they did, instead of me doing the background and the intro and then they basically restate the same stuff over. So it saves kind of like space in the beginning, and on the back end too, we just basically, we've shortened that a little bit too. So, but you keep on growing. You get feedback from the marketplace, your listeners, and you kind of tweak it to eventually, because eventually you want to design the best product for the users, the listeners, your audience. That's who it's all about. So getting some feedback from them and then tweaking things. So from the constructive feedback that you get, then that helps too, and that just makes it more efficient, I guess.
It's good, man.
The thing I love you said was how you study the people you admire, you respect, you look up to, you want to emulate, you want to be like. Years ago, I had an acting teacher that said something very similar. She said, it's okay to steal as long as you steal from the best. And that's significant in everything we do in life, right? You get the point. It's not stealing in that way. It's learning, it's training, it's borrowing, it's using, it's trying, it's seeing what the people you want to be like, who are doing what you appreciate, the thing you want to attract, and say, well, how are they doing the opening? Well, how are they inserting sponsors? How are the guests that I like? How are they opening a show? Let me go listen to an episode and really pay attention to how these powerful podcast guests, these figures, how do they open the show? How do they talk about who they are? What's their persona and their vibe?
Yep.
Yeah. I recommend also, when you find that type of show that you're inspiring to be like, go back to the first episode, listen to that, and then listen to the newest episode and how much they evolved over time, because things change. Like MC said, we've figured out relatively quickly, as a community, that reading bios is not necessarily the best for the listener. So then we've started to make it more conversational. Like MC said, we sort of do a quick pre-roll and intro and then get right to it, because they're going to talk about it. They're going to start mentioning all the things that they do. So yeah, getting into shows that inspire you, but then also watching and listening to their journey, and then picking up how they're currently doing it, because the best have figured out and tweaked and modified their show to be better, or to cater to, like MC said, what the market's asking for.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And as an interviewer too, another thing is, it's, there's different skill sets, and you guys do a fantastic job of sharing the different skills you need to be a great guest and to also be an interviewer. And there's a lot of different skill sets involved with that. So look at some of the hosts that are really, really good. Like, for example, using the same person, he's a really good listener. Sometimes when you have people on your show, and there are certain shows like that, they don't even really let the guests speak. And then sometimes I'm like, I don't understand. Why do you have this person on? If you keep interrupting him, and if you keep trying to get argumentative with them, I don't get it. Then just have your own show, right? Have your own soapbox. Stand on your soapbox. But if you're a really great interviewer, listens and has a good flow to it and guides it, but they're trying to get the perspectives, the knowledge, the wisdom, regardless of what type of shows it's, the insights of the guest out of it, and that's the value that they provide for the listeners. And great interviewees are they come prepared, and I know we talked about it in that masterclass too, but they come prepared. They know what they want to get across. They have their messaging down. They have the talking points down, what they want to get across in that interview. And that's a skill to stay on track with that too. Here's another thing. If you want to listen to study to, like there's some great podcast people that interview very, very well. But there's also, if you don't have hours to sit and take notes of someone being interviewed, look at a press conference. Here's what I always say. Do you think Tom Brady doesn't have a team that coaches him about how to go into press conferences and how to nail that every single time? Do you think Tom Brady doesn't have a PR team, somebody that tells him, here's what you need to say, here's the messaging, here's that's going to be the most impactful? So knowing all of that, and he's been in a couple of Super Bowls, I guess, which is kind of a media circus. So if you want to know how to handle media, there's someone to study right there. Go and look at how he handles press conferences, how he chunks his messages, what he gets across, the pace at his delivery, what he doesn't say, which is also very important. It's not just what you say, but what you don't say. He doesn't get dragged into a direction that he doesn't want to get dragged into because he's that well coached. Doesn't get emotional. Hey, this guy said you sucks. That's great. I can't wait for Saturday. It's going to be a beautiful game. Our fan base are great. It's a beautiful field. I'm really excited to play Miami again. That's just how they do it. They just don't get pushed around into certain directions. And what I mean is not answering the questions, but it's staying on message and getting across what you want to get across.
Love it. I want to piggyback off that, and then we're going to land this bird, as I love to say. So for the folks that have a show, your hosts out there that find themselves, if you listen to your own show, that you are interrupting and you're interjecting your thoughts and you're taking a long time to get there, like I'm doing now, and then I recommend maybe thinking about devoting one episode a week, or every other week, whenever you want to do it, where it's you on your show talking about the things you want to talk about, maybe highlighting the best of the week, so you can talk about things that you are passionate about, position yourself as a thought leader using your own platform, because as hosts, we give the shine to the guest, but your audience doesn't necessarily know how you're the expert in this equation. So it's really cool, an idea that I just wanted to put out there for people who may be finding that they want to share a lot of stuff. Just give yourself an episode. Give yourself a friend of ours, Victor Minash, who has a really good podcast, daily podcast, where he interviews one person during the week, but all during the week, Monday through Friday, it's him. It's him talking for 5 to 15 minutes. That might be a good format for you. So big shout out again to our sponsors, Kitcaster. Jump in if you want to save $100 off the PodMax ticket. So jump into, Jake will give us the link here. There you go, podmax.co/Kitcaster. Save now. Put it under your 1-800 mattress. We're looking for them. We want to sponsor them so bad. Please write us a $10,000 check.
Or as MC said, 1-800-PILLOW, which it might have been PILLOW. Too few letters.
Yeah.
1-800-PILLOW.
And much love and shout to Accountable Equity, Josh McCallum, Melanie McCown from AccountableEquity.com. And then also Pessimist Archive. Check out that podcast. Really, we'll throw that link or that comment into this show as well.
What is the relevancy of Pessimist Archive? What is the relevancy?
Good question.
Connect the dots, Eric Cabral.
Thank you so much, Josh Carey.
You're very welcome. Scratch it, sir. Scratch it.
I'm gonna give you some scratch here. So Jason Pfeiffer, the host of the Pessimist Archive, the brains behind this really unique podcast, is one of our speakers. He's actually conducting the interview with Matthew, or we like to call him Matt Higgins, who is the head of RSE Cap Venture, which is an investment company. They invest in businesses, and also the co-founder of Vayner Media. Sound familiar? So Matt Higgins is going to be interviewed not by me, not by Josh, not by Lisa, but by Jason Pfeiffer, editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur Magazine himself, in the flesh or virtually. So we asked, how can we help you in this opportunity, in this stage? He said, can you help me get more people to love on Pessimist Archive, and we're like more than
We
happy.
could do that, yeah.
It's one of my favorite shows.
Easy.
So Pessimist Archive is a sponsor, and also Jason Pfeiffer, a friend of ours, going to come to PodMax July 10th, as you will, my good listeners and followers. PodMax July 10th, we're going to have an awesome time with Jason Pfeiffer, Matt Higgins, and who else, Josh, during lunch?
None other than, well, it's after lunch, but I get the point, scratching friend. We are bringing on Jordan Harbinger. Say what? I said Jordan Harbinger. If you've been in and around the podcast or any kind of internet space, you know Jordan Harbinger. For 11 years, he was part of The Art of Charm, which he helped build that brand and that podcast to literally millions of downloads. Now he's, among other things, the host of The Jordan Harbinger Show. What else? That to date, 6+ million downloads per month. So he's going to be running our workshop all about networking, how to tap in to your network, how to get the attention of those seemingly people that you say, they're unreachable. Are they? Jordan says no. So as part of your ticket with Global, you're going to sit in on the live training with Jordan to help you tap in to that hidden network of yours.
Awesome. So much.
We just did at the same time.
So much value. So much. We're super excited about PodMax July 10th. So join us. Check it out. We put all the links in the comments here. So podmax.co. We'll see you there July 10th. Everyone here that you're viewing, everyone that we're talking about will be there. So we're more than happy to open the doors and welcome you as well. So until next week, folks, we'll see you on Air Brands Live. Ciao.
Adios.
Bye-bye.